Hi everyone. So today, we're gonna talk about Lawrence, obviously, and I'm gonna present myself because no one really knows me. My name is Juliet. I love helping people with their confidence and definitely their imposter syndrome, which because I was there for so long, and it's really kind of daily work. So, and I also wanted to kind of share other people's story, who they help, what they want to do, why they want to help people, and yeah, Lawrence accepted to be my first guest. Thank you. So nice, even though I had to ask you to do so many things today. I'm sorry. But anyway, Lawrence, she's helping women who are over 50s to find their identity. Um, as and sorry, what is this kind of and I'm gonna let her because I'm a little bit stressed right now. I'm gonna let her I'm really panicking. I'm gonna let Laurence explain so who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Okay, thank you. And congratulations, Juliet. You manhandled and struggled through, and between the community, we figured this out. So bravo, big success. So don't be stressed. We're here. So thank you very much. I'm very honored to be your first. And so um, as Juliet said, so my name's Lori or Laurence Croter, and what my passion is to help and support and empower women over 50 who have experienced through one or multiple life events a current experience of feeling without living without purpose or identity, not knowing what to do, where to go next. And the reason that my business name is Off the Couch Coaching, and the reason I gave it that name was because I had several events that didn't happen all at once. But what I realized is the profound effect of the first event that has on the second event, that has on the third event. And as opposed to really, I thought I dealt with each of those events, they stacked. So much like we talk about, stacking successes, stacking challenges can also occur. And if they're not addressed sufficiently, they will just wait until they have a buddy to come on and stack on top. And so for me, the final stack was losing my job of 10 years that I thought passionate about, but I was more passionate about what I did, not who I did it for. And I literally was on the couch for weeks, months. And I realized there was something greater for me to do. And what I want to share with women who are experiencing this is the shortcut to go from being on the couch to being on their feet, walking proudly into their future.
Wow, that's amazing. I think there's so many hours, like not even over 50 though.
I know I had to pick a
But
group.
But I think there's so many, and specifically today, after everything that happened in the last few years. I mean, I guess there's like already a lot of people before that, but I think the last 2 years kind of had impacted everyone on this level. So I think it's really great.
Thank
It's
you.
so amazing. Yeah, and you just did kind of great to kind of go through like your coach to say, okay, you know what, I'm gonna take my life again and put it on track and have the strength. I mean, personally, I've been depressed for a long time, a
Mm,
long time. And yeah, I used to have a boyfriend who just tried to take me out and just say, okay, you have to go for a walk. And I was like, I don't want to go for a walk. And I was like, no, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do this and don't want to do that. I even like, I love drawing, and even drawing, I was like looking at my pen and my paper and I was like, I don't want to say. I would just, I think the only thing I was doing is cooking because I was like, at some point you need to.
Well, I like we spoke, you know, finding something that invokes even the smallest spark of joy is really the key. And like you said, it when you get to that point of not wanting to do anything, that's where you want to that's where you start experiencing a lack of joy, a lack of hope. And that I realized is it's it's really even we think that we should do when we do something, we should immediately feel a gratification for it. And when we're in a depression or when we feel lost, we discount doing anything because it's not really, we don't feel it. But what we're not realizing is that it is still having an impact. And it all that is the building on a positive level as opposed to that stacking I was talking about before, that we get inundated and buried by of these things. We think, well, there's no use. And for me, I made up my mind, and this is going to sound silly, that I was going to do two things every day. And the first was flossing my teeth because I knew I could do it. It didn't necessarily give me great gratification, but it was a success. It was something that I committed to, that little, like Dean and Tony say, and all of the coaches, it's micro shifts. And that's, to me, that was the most impactful comment, one of the many that I got, because it's the small stuff. It's, you know, the many steps that lead to that finish line of that part of the race. The second thing that I did is because I hadn't left the house for weeks and months, except to go to the store. That was it, and that was a necessity. I refused to order for delivery because I thought I'll really be on the dark side of the moon if I do that.
Yeah.
So it was committing to first walking down my street. And that's how the slippery slope is. We don't even realize we have slipped that far until just doing that is becomes its own triumph. So it's really, you know, one of the shortcuts is don't discredit anything that you do. Number one, because you're not feeling an immediate joy rush from it. It's still having an impact. And give yourself accolades for any little thing that you do that's getting you off the proverbial or literal couch. So for you, you know, with depression, it's all the little things. You didn't want to take a walk with your boyfriend. You didn't want to draw, but it's by the act itself that starts recalibrating the brain and the subconscious out of that depth that it is wired to want to keep us in, which is just being safe, not joyful, not living.
Yeah, yeah. I saw this reason so much because well, I didn't go that far though. We would go. So my ex was doing the groceries, but but one of yeah one of my best friends she's still there and I can't. I mean I'm too close to her and so she doesn't kind of. She said yes to everything I say, but she doesn't take action, and I can see her like. I saw her last year and she was exactly like that. She was like I just go out for groceries basically and sometimes people from her family say, okay, just go out, just come here, just do that. Um, um, and that's where I realized like, okay, I don't want to go back there. I have to do something.
Yeah,
And and yeah, it's always it's so and it's always how I love her so much. She's so kind. She's amazingly smart. She's really beautiful. She's kind of, kind of this Hollywood kind of girl, like beautiful girl, smart girl. But she keeps saying to herself like, oh, she's no good to anything. She's not pretty. She's not this, and she's not that, and she doesn't do this, and she doesn't do that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, do you realize you are talking to yourself like so badly, even worse than me? I mean, I used to talk to myself really badly, but she's kind of a whole different level, and she's. I think it's really hard to kind of at some point. It's so I don't know how to say it, but insidious. Like it can
It
like
is. It is
totally. So
insidious.
you don't realize how harmful you get to yourself.
And you're
When
right. You're right. It's the dialogue that we say to ourselves, either out loud to others about ourselves or internally, that is more damaging than anything that anyone else can do to us, because we are having our brain reconfirm and reaffirm those negative beliefs. And we say it, we've talked about this. We say things oftentimes that are self incriminating and self damaging because really we're just frightened and on the lookout for someone to say it to us. So we figure we're going to beat them to the punch. I'm just not smart enough. I'm just not, I
oh my
just don't have the drive. So we say it because we're anticipating
God,
someone else is going to say it. There's no evidence that they're ever going to say that. But it's that script that we have in our head. And again, it's the small stuff that is so incredibly impactful, which is the minute that thought comes in of I'm not smart enough, or I'm not brave enough, or whatever. We all have it. It's rolling around in there on a 24/7
yeah.
loop. To be aware of it is most important when that pops up, and say, no, I am really smart. No, I am courageous. I walked down the block today. I do love myself. I flossed my teeth. Whatever the opposite is so impacting. And for your friend, she's damaging. She's having her brain get this feedback, and it says, yeah, you're right. Like, and I don't know, I can't remember who the person is that Tony and Dean have quoted, but if you say you're wrong or you say you're right, you're right.
Yeah,
If you say
yeah,
you're
yeah. I do
beautiful
remember
or
this
you say
quote.
you're ugly, you are. And what this one exercise that Emily Ford had us do, it was in the You Are the Brand session. And I don't know if you saw that.
No, I
It
didn't say
was,
that.
this was such an interesting thing she had us do. She had us email or text anyway, or call as many people as we could to ask them, if there's one thing that describes me, if there's one word that describes me, can you let me know what that is? And it was so incredibly uncomfortable for me to do that,
Yeah,
because how often do we reach out to ask someone what they think of us? Again, it goes back to that, well, I'm going to just, insult myself before anybody else has a chance to. I'm going to put myself down before anyone else has a chance to. But it was so incredibly beautiful because first, it allowed me to be vulnerable in a way that was very uncomfortable. Secondly, it was asking for help, because I prefaced it, I am working on my marketing, and part of this is to really find out what everyone thinks of me, because what you think of me is really my brand. I am the brand. We are all our brands, right? It's not the shoe, it's Juliet, right? So I was just first of all, I was amazed with how immediately everyone responded, which filled me with love. But it was also what they said that was just like mind blowing, because we go through life assuming, and that word is capitalized, a lot. We assume people that we're friends with or family with love us. We don't really know. We don't. Have you ever asked anybody, so if you could describe me in one word, what would that be?
I never
No.
had.
I know, because we are already on the edge of our seat, in life anticipating the worst, and again, that's just how our brain is wired.
Yeah.
Assume everybody is a saber-toothed tiger, so learn to run or fight. So it was a really great exercise that perhaps, you might offer to your friend, who, I don't know if she is in a state that she could be tolerant of that kind of vulnerability. Um,
Mm.
but it was really a valuable exercise for me, because it recalibrated my brain in a way that was based on evidence.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I used to kind of, so I think at some point you hate yourself so much, and so you won't ask anything to anyone because you're like, and I mean, I used to, I just remember like when I started doing an exercise. So I was doing some breathing exercise twice a day, and so okay, how do you see yourself? How do you kind of, what are you saying to yourself? And I was just realizing how badly I was talking to myself all the time. But even though when I was with friends, I used to do as a joke, oh no, but I'm blonde, so I can't. Oh, I can't do that. I can't. Oh, it's this and that. And just realize like it just kind of, even as a joke, it just has so much impact. And when I stop everything, like, okay, it just come back sometimes. I know it's just kind of something you have to fight every day, but it's so impactful, and I just feel so much better. And I might, yeah, I have never asked my friend how, kind of how they feel about me, but I do know the last I got. All my friends I have now, I know that they kind of, they really love me, because they said it, like most of the time they said it. So at least I don't have to, don't have to ask this one. But I think I also kind of see myself differently today. I can even watch myself right now, which kind of wasn't possible a few years ago. I would
It's
have been
shocking.
like, how can I do that without seeing myself? Like, so, and as I said, I just even kind of apply to some kind of um shooting stuff, which I won't do. I don't think it's a real one, but just the idea of say, okay, you know what, just apply whatever happened, just apply and you'll see what's going what's going to happen. But I think yeah, it's kind of this way of always talking to yourself in such bad. I think it's the most important thing is really to stop this, to spot them first, to spot how much time you are talking badly about yourself during the day, because sometimes you're just doing nothing or you are working and you're still kind of doing, okay, sorry, thank you, Karin. It was really nice to see you. But anyway, yeah, I think we don't realize because we're doing it all the time. And so it just kind of, it's not something we are conscious, like it's really our unconscious. We're kind of talking to ourselves. And
It's the
um,
programming of our subconscious because of
um,
the, pre early days of our childhood. We were 100% dependent upon our primary caretakers, typically our mother and our father. And, they did the best they could, and without being fully aware, various messaging of was said to us, or actions were made, that we are sponges. When we're growing up, we're learning, but we're also taking in messages that we believe is representative of us. And this is obviously in a very vulnerable stage because we haven't even formulated our own identity. Cognitive thinking hasn't even happened yet, but it stays with us. And you're right, we get so used to and comfortable with, and it's so familiar, the words we say to ourselves or to others about ourselves. Again, it's a protective, mechanism. That what I found really helpful through this whole journey is, like you said, being aware of it is huge. And then writing it down is the next step. Because I know
yeah,
when through this whole thing, it's like journaling. It's like Yeah, that's what, other people do. And no disregard and disrespect, for people who have beautiful environments and, surrounding themselves with environments. It's like I sort of always, you know, um, appropriated the act of journaling with, having a daily meditation practice, which, again, I wasn't doing. But what I realized is with journaling is it literally gets it out of your head. So what I started doing was every time a negative popped in my head, or a belief, I should just say, that I didn't recognize as negative, I would write it down. And what I was shocked was when I reread it, that awareness became so vibrant of how negative it was. I wasn't even aware that it was. Truly, truly did not have any awareness how
Yeah,
damaging, self-damaging it was. So that I would highly recommend, again, if your friend is even ready, The other thing I wanted to mention too is it's so easy for us on the outside to just say, well, just do this, just do that. I mean, what's the big deal? Just get up off the couch, go out, and we say
yeah,
it because we're not in their shoes. We're not feeling the depth of that sadness, that forlornness, that depression, or whatever the emotional experience is. And the thing that I have had to realize, and also with my daughter, I just want to fix it. I just want her to be okay, is to step back and realize they've got to come to it when they're ready to, even if they don't feel that they're able to. Much like me, when I literally got off the couch, I knew I had to do something. Didn't know what yet. But really, the most striking reality of this is they are in a place of extreme pain.
yeah,
Choosing to change is also very painful. It really is. At what point does the current experience that they're having of pain greater than the pain and fear of change? And that for me was the tipping point, because this pain that I was experiencing was so great, but the fear of not changing, of not doing something different, gave me a kaleidoscope view into the future of passing the rest of my life like my mom did, which was she couldn't wait for the end of each day to come so she could just go to sleep, and then she would
yeah,
buckle up for the start of the next day. And that for me was the zoom lens of where I didn't want to go.
yeah. Yes,
So,
yes.
and that's the tipping point that, for us coaches, we have to be very, I think, not I think I know we have to be very empathetic of where are they in that tipping point of, is that pain that they're currently experiencing greater than the fear of not growing and not making that choice to change? Because as you and I both know, and everyone in this community, is choosing growth is
Yeah,
just not for the faint of heart. So
yeah.
you got to buckle
Um,
up sometimes. So yeah.
I think you're right. Like this part, we we shouldn't forget. Like we should never forget is like even if you haven't been in this state, like you don't always fully understand what is it, so you can't assume, oh yes, do this, can do this, do that. I
Right.
know I've been to lots of therapy before, and it was either they would be just sit there and just say, okay, what do you have to say? And I was like, what? Don't you have any question? I don't know, what do I have to say? Why are you feeling that? Like, and the only question I had was, why are you feeling that like that? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. So I would just sit there and stay an hour and just look at a guy or a woman just kind of sit in front of me and just do nothing. And I
That's
think
why
the
I'm
last one was
paying
more
you the money. You
exactly.
tell me what's wrong with me.
um, So I think, yeah, you just kind of have to. I think the most important, at least at first, is really to listen to them and to listen to their pain and to see, okay, what at your stage, what could you do, on daily basis, even if it's not. That's why, like, for example, for my coaching, my very first hour is going to be just kind of what the only thing you're gonna have to do for the next week is gonna be like spotting how you talk to yourself. So doing some breathing exercise and spotting, okay, how do I talk to myself? And journal, like if you want to journal it or if you want to. So I didn't, to be honest, I didn't journal mine, but I started to be like this breathing exercise to kind of check how I talk to myself, to see how nicely I was with myself. um, but I start journaling like a little bit later on, just to kind of spot, to just write on my days and to say, okay, my gratitude is like before going to bed, basically, and just finishing my day, even if it was a shitty day, but finishing my day with like, okay, so I did this, I'm proud of that, I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for that, and after I decided to do like 2 section, 3 section my day. My wins, or even if it's like, oh, I made a hot chocolate, which I'm really good with. I made hot chocolate. I was so good. I was so happy. It was like the perfect combination and stuff. And definitely since I discovered coconut milk, I make the best chocolate, hot chocolate ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just kind of by writing. And the thing is, it does take time because at first I was like, okay, I'm writing it down. It's positive, but I just don't. My brain was like, yeah, nah, doesn't do anything.
And
But
that's I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, after I think with time, it just kind of, as the moment you stop talking your negative thoughts is suddenly your wins and your gratitude just kind of take over, and you just like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and that's so true because when I first started doing that as well, I just decided every day at the end of the day or during the day, whatever, I was going to write down everything that I was proud of doing. And again, back to the flossing of the teeth. That was like, okay, I flossed my teeth because if I had done nothing else, at least I knew I had done that. And it's what, like Dean and Tony talk about, the things that happen in the invisible are having profound effect on us. And when we're first starting to get out of whatever, hole we're in or situation that seems, forlorn, just doing that has a compounding benefit that, again, it's happening behind the scenes. So we're not consciously aware of the effect. Writing down our wins, I would write, and I still do at the top of each page for each day, I am proud of myself today for, and then I would list each of the things that I did. And it could have been saying hi, introducing myself to a neighbor I had never met, because that's big for me because I'm by nature an introvert. And so reaching out, asking for help, whatever, it really is kind of the magic, at least I think it is, of going through the back door of the subconscious, who is in that, IT room in our brain running that script of I am not. You cannot do that. What are you
No.
thinking that you think and you can do that? You know that you're not made for that. All of that script running, well, they're busy 24/7 making sure that they're feeding that to us. By putting down our successes, it literally to me is like finding that secret back door that inserts
Yeah.
into that script without the subconscious finding out.
Yeah, and I think what is good with journaling, I didn't realize it until not so long ago. But you can see the difference between when you started and now, like, because I think at some point you can say, oh, it doesn't feel like it's useless. When I started, I really forced myself every day. So I would put a date and say, okay, 1 or 2 lines, and then put a date. So on one page, I would have a week, basically. And today, sometimes I got 2 pages, like for one day, and I was like, oh, okay, I did this, I did that. Oh, it was so great. Oh, it was. And after some time, to be honest, I try to do daily, but sometimes I just, since I'm back, I just don't do it. Some, things happen. If you don't do it 2 or 3 days, that's fine. Nothing's gonna change. But I think on daily basis, and you can see, I can see on I haven't finished my my notebook, but I can see from the first day to the now, what I'm writing now is like the evolution. So you can actually, even, it's like watching someone growing. You don't see, like, you don't really see him growing up. Just be like, oh, it's always the same. It doesn't always have the same face. But at the end of the day, if you take a picture of like 2 years ago and now, and you can say, oh my gosh, this is so, it really evolved. You can't see it on daily basis, and I really like that. I'm like, okay, sometimes you feel like, oh, it's really useless. It won't use for, I mean, I want, and I haven't changed. And then you go back to what you wrote like 6 months ago, and you're like, okay, maybe something changed.
You bring up a brilliant point of perspective, Juliet, because like we were talking earlier, is we are a culture of immediate gratification. And so when we're in pain, we want immediate pleasure. We want to immediately not feel this pain. It's again, it's the elegance of journaling. And I love your analogy of it's like trying to watch someone grow. Okay. You don't see them grow. It's happening so slowly. And the same is true for us. And you're right in that perspective of even just reading what I wrote 6 months ago, both not only the words, but the feeling I remember having at that point. And now, or a year ago, is showing that growth. And that is another gift, because just by writing what we're feeling is not only getting it out of our heads, so it's not allowed to run that racetrack mentally. It's like, okay, I got that message subconscious, but I'm going to write it down so I don't have to keep track of it. But it's also the writing of it, to read it. Do I still believe that? No. It's that confirmation of, wow, okay, there is movement forward. And it's that, again, the invisible and the slow micro steps, and micro shifts, that when we give ourselves that perspective by having this journaling
Yeah.
document is proof. I mean, that's like, you cannot argue with that.
Yeah, you can. I mean, if you don't, that's why I think it's not easy. To be honest, like my ex asked me to journal, like, I don't remember. It was a long time ago, before we broke up, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And I was like, he brought me everything. He took me like, say, okay, I'm gonna give you this notebook. I'm gonna give you like this pen. We're gonna go with this notebook, so you don't, use it for something else. And every morning you're gonna write what you're like 3 things you are grateful for. Every evening you're gonna do that. And I've never been able to kind of do it. And I was like, oh, that's BS. No, I mean, no one does that. It's kind of really useless. But when I started changing, and I was like, I started writing, because I was like, okay, we're gonna try it for 1 month. Like, if it doesn't work, but at least try to do it. Maybe not every day, but I try to do it like 3, 4 times a day, a week, and oh my gosh! And after, I'm like, okay, you don't feel it really because it's daily. And but after a month, I was like, okay, it's nice. It's just nice at least to kind of write down your day, and you're just like, you kind of, oh, I did something great, and you are so happy. So you kind of describe it like something's gonna stay. Because if you don't write it, you can say whatever you want even in 6 months, but your brain's gonna, in a way, your brain change kind of what really happened. So if you don't write it, even if you're writing, it's kind of, you have a little bit of distortion of your story. But if you don't write it, your distortion is gonna be like worse with time. Like,
True. And we don't remember the good things. We're constantly filtering through the good things. It's like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I just built the Eiffel Tower. That's great. What else? What have we not done is what we are constantly focused on. And by writing it down, both the bad things and the good things, we're relieving the burden of our soul by writing the bad things, the bad limiting beliefs, but we're giving applause to our soul by writing all of our things that we're proud of ourselves for. We won't remember those. Like, I'll look back on my list and I'm like, oh yeah, I did do that. Oh, and I did that. And I did that, because we're constantly, I don't know how you were brought up, but I was brought up with a father who had been a merchant marine. So every day was a day of tasks. You were only worthy to receive anything of, pleasure, meaning relaxation, joy, happiness, if we completed all of our tasks. So Saturdays we were able to watch cartoons from 7:30 until 8 a.m. And then that was it. And then we all were given our chores that we had to do. And then by around 3, we were able to have our own free time. But it created a culture, a belief within me that I couldn't be happy or relax or in the middle of the day watch a show unless I had done, the forced labor, the Baton Death March for the 8 hours before it. And so it's by journaling, it really brings a lot of awareness, or has brought a lot of awareness to me for those things too. It's like, I'm making this a hell of a lot harder on myself to be joyful. That is my right. It's all of our right. We're
Yeah, I think
born with joy, we're born with purpose, and man, it just gets scattered in the ether.
yeah, I think it's kind of so I didn't have a marine dad.
Pardon?
But, I didn't have this same diet, so I was more kind of, I would say, freedom. I was a child and I really had a happy child. But the only thing is no celebration when you do something right, specifically at school. So
Mm.
it was, if you are the first one, it's okay. Okay, it's good, and just go something. If you are the second one, it was like, why did you lose your points? And if you was the third one, I was like, okay, what happened?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's what you haven't done as opposed to what have you done.
And so I'd never been, like kind of congratulate if I was, if I got like the best note.
Yeah.
And so I think journaling also kind of, and specifically me, I do it in the evening before sleeping because I want the last thing of my day to 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 write all my celebration of the day. Because that's the way my brain doesn't focus on what happened badly, but really gonna focus on what was happy and positive in my life. Because I just realized, like, I got my PhD, and I wasn't even. I mean, I loved my PhD, but when I got it, I wasn't even happy. I was like, oh, okay, what's next? What do I do now? And I could see all my friends was like, oh my gosh, you got a PhD, that's amazing, that's great, and I was like, no, I mean, I just got a PhD, sorry, and I don't feel like kind of, and because I was raised like that, so I just, everyone around me was like, oh my gosh, that's so great. And I just felt like, no, and by journaling everything you do right, like even though if I'm happy, even, like even with hot chocolate, I'm like, oh God, that's really nice. And I just realized, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I got, I made a mess in my kitchen, like a really, really mess. Well, I got a really bad night. Woke up, I wasn't, yeah, a little bit blurry and so, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna make something with curcuma, like turmeric in it.
Oh. Mm.
So I got turmeric powder. And something, I was opening a drawer and just something fell on my powder and the powder just spread in all the kitchen.
Turmeric.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Oh my
that's
God.
that's the time. That's the time you want to turn your kitchen into an art piece.
And you know what? So I just so I was a little bit pissed, just slightly pissed, slightly pissed. So I was like, oh my gosh, I was doing all the names, the bad name you could say from back. So I cleaned everything, and I just went back, in my in my room, and I was like, okay. you won't let this event define your day. This was one event of your day. That's it. That's a little bit annoying, a little bit too coloring. But this still just one. No one's dead. No one hurt. No one, and this is one. And I realized like 4 or 5 years ago, one thing like that would have happened, and I was like all my day, maybe all my week would have been shit. Like I would have been, okay, this is start on my day. This start really badly, so my day is gonna be shit. So I won't gonna do anything. So I won't gonna be able to sleep tonight because of what happened. And
And that is a beautiful example of bringing full circle of what we started talking about earlier of the mindset. Whatever we believe, I mean, this is so powerful that, we all know intellectually we're thinking, but the power of the set design of our mind will be the stage that we live our lives. So we've set the stage in our mind, like you said, nothing good is ever going to happen to me. Horrible things always happen. Well, it's not a surprise that they do because, again, the brain filters to make us
yeah,
make our thoughts correct. So it's almost like I was talking to my daughter about it. I said, it's almost sort of like the Matrix, not to get weird, but our reality is ours. And so that gray sky could mean doom and gloom for some, or it could mean an opportunity for a cozy fire and hot chocolate. It's all how we look at it, right? And so that was a perfect example, Juliet, of the power of in the moment, we are determining all of the next moments and how
yeah,
powerful it is to
exactly.
just simply say, you know what, this does not define me. That turmeric is just going to lay there for a few more hours and then I will take care of it. But it is an inanimate thing that happened, and I'm human, and it's a beautiful mess. But yeah, and that's the thing about I too do that is at the end of the night, I'll finish up the list of what I feel proud of, no matter how minimal. Um, and I always tantamount that activity with a hug of myself.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I think it's kind of um, I always so when I was younger, a bit younger. Uh, you're right. I always kind of I worked so hard, like so really, really hard on everything I was doing, everything, and it always ended up like kind of a dead end. And I was like, oh my gosh, whatever I do, I can work like super hard and nothing happen. And I can see like people doing nothing and earning like thousands and millions of dollars for doing jokes online. And I just kind of today, I mean, it took me a long, long time, but today I'm like, okay, yeah, like as you said, it's just kind of you are so focused on the negatives that you just kind of drawn, yeah, something just attract you to everything's negative, so everything's negative happening to you, like everything.
Right, right. It always follows. And so we're so geared and conditioned to anticipate the saber-toothed tiger of bad things happening. Our brain is not wired for us to, oh, yay, I wonder what happy balloons are going to appear in my life today. I wonder, oh, the rainbow. We're always in anticipation of the
Yeah,
dire, as opposed to, wait, if that is happening on its own, I also have the power to anticipate great things happening that are unknown. We absolutely own and believe all the bad things that haven't even happened. They're not even there, but we are absolutely dead set, confirmed, and like, oh, okay, kind of like sheep following the sheep herder. We're assuming there's a cliff, but we don't know. And for the opposite practice of the power that is within us to anticipate great things it's like it's a muscle. we have to practice, we have to exercise it. Writing what we're proud of ourselves for is a practice, and it's an exercise of a muscle. And I think that all of these things, instead of what naturally occurs in our brains, which is the negative, to really go and put in, like, we've learned a set of beliefs every moment the negative comes up that kind of crowds out that negative belief with, that's interesting. So you think today is going to be crappy. Interesting. No evidence of that. So because you don't have any evidence, I'm going to put in my belief, which is today's going to be great. There's no evidence of it, but it has equal power, if not more. So
yeah, I think it's super powerful. It's just kind of, and you're not drawn on this kind of, I don't know why I do that. There's no point because at the end, it never
right.
could happen.
And then we
And
don't.
yeah, after we just
We
kind
don't
of,
do it.
I know it's kind of, it's so that kind of, yeah, I think this mindset is really hard to get. I mean, I don't say it's easy I mean, we all struggle a lot, I think, to get there. But
Well, I
I
think
think it's,
again, I'm sorry.
no, good.
I think again, we assume that when we're in pain, we should be able to have immediate release of that pain. Or when we do something that other people, suggest is going to make us feel better, we're assuming we're going to have an immediate sense of feeling better. That's not, I don't think this is how this works. I think it's all through a slow evolution that then has a lasting effect. And to your point, I grew up believing, and also in my, not even, I grew up, I did actually just grow up in the last few years. But I always believed that there's something wrong with me that I can't reject these negative beliefs. The reality is they are a part of us. They are a neurological part of us that we were born with, that was created purely to keep us safe. Again, not necessary now, but it has not been, through evolution, it has not come out of us yet. So it's really, for me, it was embracing the reality. No, those negative thoughts are going to be there. What can I do to put in its place or over it a powerful, positive thought? It was me being shocked all the time that gave me a sense of less than, that they weren't going away. There must be
Yeah.
something wrong with me. I can't get rid of these negative thoughts. So that must mean they're true. It's no. We just came, it was a group package. And unfortunately, that's, something that is not a happy reality, but we do have the power to create a happy alternative.
Yeah, and I think that's why, to be fair, because I did both, like therapy and coaching, and I think that's why coaching is really powerful, because you really kind of, you give tools to the person. You just don't, it's really the idea of, so I don't say like if you have really some disease, to not go to therapy, but when you kind of really struggle with that kind of issue, I think like the coaches I got, I mean, it was suddenly I was like, oh God, oh, if I do that every day. So I forced myself. Yeah, you have to force yourself. At some point, I think when you started, you have to force yourself to do it. But at least you have tools. You have like, okay, try to do that. Maybe not start with like once a week, then you go twice a week, 3 times a week, and you try to increase it. But at least you have something you can focus on and say, okay, I want to change now, and I need to do that. I have to post. Okay, I have to post for 1 month. I'm going to post myself for 1 month and doing it. And I realized like the first month was really awful. I hated it. I hated journaling. I hated doing my 3 minutes. I always like, oh, I don't have time. 3 minutes. I don't have 3 minutes a day to meditate and to check my thoughts. I don't have this and I don't have that. But after you do it, like for 1 month, you force yourself, and you're like, I want to go to Netflix or have a game, something. But you do it. After a month, you're like, okay, okay. And then, as I said, like you read back what you said that was what you were writing a month ago. You're like, okay, okay, maybe it can, okay, maybe it can work. So let's try it a little bit longer. And after you get more tools, that's come. And
Well, and
yeah,
the reality for me, and this is where I didn't even, I'm sorry, my phone is, I have to plug my phone in. The reality for me was that, oops, okay, was I truly believed through, I've been through therapy, I've gone through, I had my master's in NLP, went to this thing called the Hoffman Institute. I truly thought that this was a one-off and I should be able, it's one and done, right? Like, I go through this, okay, great, I'll be fixed. I thought that the human condition was fixable. It is, I think that we're mounds of beautiful clay, that really the quest is to not fix it, and I'm not sure even what the fix would be, but to really mold ourselves constantly. As the clay gets drier, we do put more water on it, or we've learned how to impress our own clay into different forms that are more satisfying and beneficial for us. And so that, however, it's so naive, but I truly thought that there's a one and done and I'm good to go. And through this whole experience of becoming a coach, I realized this is an ongoing practice, both for myself and for my clients, that I am embracing, as opposed to being disappointed by, because you mean I have to do this every day? That was like,
yeah,
what? And that is, I really kind of thought always when I would take up surfing or take up stand-up paddleboarding, or I would do this or I would do that, I should be great at it. And then that's it. I don't have to really practice. I can just be great at it anytime that I do it. And that's not reality. It's like going, as we've heard, it's going to the gym consistently if you want to stay in shape. You don't go to the gym for 1 week and all of a sudden you're in shape, and then you're gonna stay in shape. And that really for me was this change of mindset that I absolutely embraced, that had me fall in love with coaching,
yeah,
of myself and for others,
yeah.
because
I think it's
it's a love, it's a love letter to
yeah, and it's
ourselves.
also, I think it's important to kind of also create this space, this kind of really reassuring, like safe space, I would say. So I think what I do like with coaching is the idea you don't force the person. I mean, if the person doesn't want to do it, she doesn't know. But after, if someone, I think we all have, even now, when I don't, I took one day during my audit day, I didn't do anything. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't do anything. I didn't. Oh my gosh, what? I felt so guilty, like so bad. I'm like, and after, so I write on my journal, and I'm like, why do I feel bad? And I think one of my therapy was like that. Like, he gave me one thing to do. Finally, after 20 years, one person gave me one thing to, and I didn't do it. So I gave all of the excuses, like, oh, I didn't have time, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. And she was like, why didn't you do it? I'm like, what? I'm sorry, I didn't do it. That's not my fault. But she was really aggressive, and I was like, I never went back to that to this person.
Well, and I too, like you, Juliet, I have had, like, I won't do anything for like 4 days. And it's like, I then rationalize, well, I deserve a couple days off. And what it has done, what I've sort of transformed, that self-bashing of not, of dipping out and not doing the work that I do need to do to move the needle forward. It gives me the opportunity to ask myself, okay, no, you're cool. You took off those 4 days. let's just think about what might be behind that. What are you avoiding? So it gave me, instead of just focusing on the self-bashing and self-disappointment, an opportunity to look at, okay, what am I afraid of? What am I nervous about doing? What am about posting this or doing this work?
Yeah.
And so that's really the self-forgiveness piece, I think, is really important for us as coaches, because if we can't forgive ourselves, we don't have a chance in hell for to do that for our
Yeah.
coach or for our clients.
Yeah. But and after I think you just have the right to just take a day off and just
Oh
stop
yeah.
doing it during your day. I just I was writing like I'm like I've been working my ass off since I think it was like since August, where I've been working every day. Every morning I would wake up and then evening and then I have to do my day job. And during the weekend I would try to work a little bit more because I did not have my day job. And so when I got Sunday, I was like, I got a list of things to do, and I just watched my list and I was like, you know what? It's gonna work. I'm gonna
Yeah.
start to work.
Yeah. It's
I
like they always
forget it.
say,
Yeah.
give ourselves grace. And if it's really something that we're, avoiding, which I certainly have, then just be aware of that. Kind of like the
Yeah.
limiting beliefs. It's like everything has a purpose, the good and the bad, and really being aware of that, as opposed to just immediately going to the self-flogging, you know, position, is really important. So,
Yeah.
well, we have reached
Well,
our hour, I think.
yeah, I think we have that we're gonna conclude here after all this event tonight. But I just want to say thank you for being my
Oh,
first guest. Um, so we're gonna have a second one in 2 weeks. I'm gonna say the guest later, but thank you. It's
thank
gonna
you,
be good.
Juliet.
But
Thank you,
thank you.
Juliet. And bravo for the courage it took for you to do this. And
Yeah,
through even
you
going through the
forgot, right?
hiccups, I really enjoyed this. The benefit.
Yeah, me too.
I'm
So
so grateful.
I'm gonna try to put it on YouTube, and I gotta try to send. I don't know how it's gonna to do it, but we're gonna try to make it work. So you can have also your the video
Oh,
if I can do
thank
it.
you. Well, we did
But
it messy. We did it imperfect, but we did it.
it's a little bit messy, but I guess we can avoid it before. So thank you so much for you. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
everyone. We watched it during the live, and we're gonna watch it after. And just put a comment if you have any question for Laurence and me or myself. And I'm gonna put all the Laurence contact details also somewhere. I don't know how it works, but I'm gonna put your contact details somewhere.
Thank you, Juliet. Thank you, everyone.